Okay, good morning all of you. Let's get started. So yesterday I was mentioning about this modeling physical phenomena expressing physical phenomena in the form of differential equation. For that, I have taken an example of axial deformation of bar, and this is all basic mechanics. If you have gone through your earlier courses properly, this is all straightforward. You can easily follow it. So here a bar having varying cross-sectional area is taken, and this bar is held at one end and it is being pulled at the other end with a force F, and in addition to that a body force is also assumed, and this body force is going to be a function of spatial coordinate x. X is shown here. X is positive towards this direction, which is indicated here. L is the length of the bar. And now to express this physical phenomena, we need to write the equilibrium equation. For that, a differential element is taken. All the forces are indicated, free body diagram of that element. And applying the equations of statics. Here, this bar is considered to be one-dimensional. So, equilibrium equation is applied along x direction. And then you get this equation. And if you simplify, you get this one. And here, F is force at any point along the length of the bar. Force is cross-sectional area at that point multiplied by stress at that point. And stress is Young's modulus times strain at that point. And strain is derivative of displacement at that particular location. So substituting all this information, that is F is equal to, I told you yesterday, please keep taking notes because I am going through these slides. So it is better if you take notes so that it's easy for you to understand. So F is A times Young's modulus times derivative of displacement with respect to x. So that is all what is substituted, and here minus q is there on this side. You can bring it to this side, then it becomes plus q, and it's going to be equal to 0 on this side. Okay, so finally you get this equation. First derivative, and this is F. F is area of cross section times Young's modulus times derivative of displacement with respect to x, plus q is equal to 0. And this is nothing but this differential equation we are getting based on equilibrium condition, equations of statics. So that equilibrium has to be satisfied at any point along the length of the bar. So this equation has to be satisfied from x0 to length of the bar, L. So this is the domain of this problem. This equation has to be satisfied over this domain. Okay, any questions here? And please note that, and we made more general case here. Cross-sectional area is assumed to be varying along the length of the bar. Young's modulus is assumed to be varying along the length of the bar. So if a particular case Young's modulus is constant, you can take out of the differentiation. And if area of a cross section is constant, it will come out. It will come out of that differential operator. Okay. So this is a more general equation. And you see this equation. This equation is second order differential equation. Second order differential equation. You already have first derivative of displacement here. Over that you are taking another derivative. So second order differential equation. Second order differential equation requires two boundary conditions or two conditions to solve. Second order differential equation requires two conditions to solve that particular differential equation. For the unknown, what is unknown here? Unknown is nothing but your displacement. So how do we get the two conditions? How do we get the two conditions? We need to go back to the physics of the problem. This is what we are trying to solve. One end of the bar is held. So what do you mean by one end of the bar being held? What is the meaning of that? Displacement at that end is going to be zero. Displacement at that end. What is, how do you define that end? That's why this coordinate system is actually assumed. X is going, or X is going to be equal to 0 here, X is equal to 0 here, X is equal to L here. So at X is equal to 0, displacement is 0. So that is actually coming from the physics of the problem. So that is one condition. I require two conditions. That is one condition I can use. And the second condition is at the free end, a load of F is applied. A pull of F is given. And X is equal to L. So force at the free end is equal to F. What is force? Force is nothing but area of cross section times Young's modulus times derivative of displacement with respect to X. This entire thing has to be evaluated at X is equal to L. So force at X is equal to L is nothing but Young's modulus times cross-sectional area times derivative of displacement with respect to X evaluated at X is equal to L is equal to capital F. So that is the other condition. So those two conditions are written here. Because this is a second order differential equation, I require two conditions to solve this. And those two conditions are obtained from the physics of the problem. Okay. So this condition, displacement at X is equal to 0 is 0. And a concentrated force or a pull is applied at free end. So that is this one. And if you see these two equations, here you can see derivative of displacement with respect to X is appearing here. And so this equation is called first order equation. First order equation. And you agree with me, this governing equation is second order differential equation. If you say this is second order differential equation, this is first order equation. This is first order equation. And what about this one? Zeroth order equation. Zeroth order equation. Okay. And now, so we got the governing differential equation by applying the equilibrium equation. And also we noted what is the validity of this equation. What is the region over which this equation has to be satisfied? domain over which this equation has to be satisfied. And also, we require, this is second order equation, so we require two conditions. Those two conditions also we obtained from the by observing carefully the given problem, and we have written the two equations. And please note that usually these two conditions, this is 0th order and this is first order. Okay, and this 0th order equation is called essential boundary condition. And please note that these two conditions for this particular problem, this is a solid mechanics problem. For this particular problem, these two conditions are related to the boundaries, so they are called boundary conditions. Okay, and this boundary condition, 0th order boundary condition, is called essential boundary condition. First order boundary condition is called natural boundary condition. Okay, or this 0th order boundary condition, this 0th order boundary condition is also called Neumann boundary condition, and this first order boundary condition is called Dirichlet boundary condition. Neumann boundary condition, Dirichlet boundary condition. We'll see that once again later. Okay, so now why this is called essential boundary condition? Let's see the problem. This bar is held at this point. If this bar is not held at this point, what is going to happen? If the bar is not held at this point, unless you apply equilibrating force, it's not going to be stable. So you can say that this boundary condition is called essential boundary condition because of that. It is essential. Whether you have these forces, whether you have this force applied here or not, whether you have this body force assumed or not, unless you fix this bar here, unless you hold it here, it's not going to be like any structural member. It's something floating in the air. So that is the reason you can assume it to be essential boundary condition. Okay, so this is essential, and the other boundary condition is called natural boundary condition. Why it's called natural boundary condition, I will give explanation at a later stage. Okay, so this is a second order differential equation, or we can summarize this in this manner: axial deformation of a bar. The physical phenomena associated with axial deformation of bar can be described using this equation, which is second order differential equation. And the two boundary conditions are, these two are the boundary conditions. One is essential boundary condition and the other one is natural boundary condition. Essential boundary condition is also called Neumann boundary condition. Natural boundary condition is also called Dirichlet boundary condition. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to give this example to show you this process, physical phenomena translating into a differential equation. And I told you yesterday there can be an error here, modeling error. Suppose your mechanics background is weak. Okay, or your this analysis background is weak, and you may make mistake here. You may make mistake in getting this free body diagram and also writing this equation. So there may be mistake here. And if your mechanics of material knowledge is weak, there may be mistake here, assuming the relationship between stress and strain. Finally, all this is going to factor into this here. So that is what is modeling. So whatever equation you get here, finally it's not actually representing the physical phenomena. So there may be modeling issues. Okay, And once you get these equations, while solving this equation, there may be some errors that we'll see later. Anyway, one more thing, and here this axial deformation of bar problem is well known to you. And suppose some other problem is there. Suppose somebody gives you a differential equation and a domain over which that differential equation is valid, along with the boundary condition, required number of boundary condition if they give. How do you identify which is essential boundary condition, which is natural boundary condition? And here it is a second order differential equation. This is a second order differential equation. Two boundary condition, one is 0th order, another is first order. Suppose instead of second order differential equation, you have a differential equation of some other order. And how do you identify which boundary conditions are essential, which boundary conditions are natural? To give you a guideline on that, this is what is written here. Boundary condition. How do you identify essential boundary condition? How do you identify natural boundary condition? For a general boundary value problem in which highest derivative present is of order 2p, the classification of boundary conditions is as follows. Those boundary conditions, those with order 0 to p minus 1 are essential. Those with order p to 2p minus 1 are natural boundary conditions. Okay? So, when a differential equation is given, you need to watch out what is the order of that differential equation. If it is 2p, those boundary conditions of order 0 to p minus 1 are essential. P to 2p minus 1 are natural. Okay? Please make a note of this point and now apply this to here. Whether this is actually, just now we have seen a problem, and now whether this particular thumb rule is valid here. Here differential equation is of order 2. So 2p is equal to 2, p is equal to 1. And now apply this. Those boundary conditions of order 0 to p minus 1. P is equal to 1 for this particular problem. So 0 to 0. That means 0th order boundary, the 0th order boundary conditions are essential. And those boundary conditions of order p, which is equal to 1. What is 2p minus 1? If p is equal to 1, 2p minus 1 is 1. Those boundary conditions from 1 to 1, that means 1, are natural boundary conditions. So this particular rule is applicable even here. You can immediately cross-check whether this is valid or not. Okay? Any questions? And if you recall from your mechanics of material background or structural analysis background, can you tell me what is the order of differential equation for a beam bending problem? For a beam bending problem, what is the order of differential equation that you get? Anyone?
So fourth order.
Huh?
Fourth order.
Fourth order.
Okay, now you apply that for a beam beam bending problem. It's a fourth order differential equation. 2p is equal to 4, p is equal to 2. So those boundary conditions of order 0 to p minus 1. 0 to p minus 1 means 0 to 1 are essential, and those boundary conditions of order 1 to 2 to 2p minus 1, 2 to 3 are natural. So now you recall what are the boundary conditions? 0th order boundary condition, first order boundary condition for a beam problem. 0th order boundary conditions are nothing but your displacement, transverse displacement. First order boundary conditions are your rotations. Okay, so when you say beam, when you want to describe a beam, you need to specify the boundary conditions are what kind of beam is that? Is that simply supported beam or fixed beam? How do you mathematically convey that? You will be conveying in terms of displacements and rotations. Okay, so displacements and rotations are essential for beam problem. What about boundary conditions are the conditions which are second and third order? Second, first of all, displacement, if you say zeroth order, slope is nothing but derivative of displacement. And if you take one more derivative, second derivative of displacement is related to moment. Third derivative of displacement is related to shear. Okay. So natural boundary conditions are going to be, for a beam problem, natural boundary conditions are going to be your moments that you apply and the point forces or the shear that you apply. Is it clear? For a beam problem, it's a fourth order differential. It's going to be fourth order differential equation. So rotations or displacement and rotations are going to be your essential boundary conditions, and moments and shear are going to be your natural boundary conditions. So similarly, you can extend this. Suppose you are given a differential equation, or you are given a problem. You don't know what exactly physical phenomena it is representing. So this is how you can actually classify the boundary condition. There is a meaning, or there is a need for doing this. When we are solving, you will understand what is the necessity of classifying the boundary conditions into essential and natural. We will see that later. Okay, so this is how you can classify the boundary condition. Any questions here? You should have one question. I'm waiting for that. Any questions?
Sir, one question, sir. So what if the order of the differential equation is odd number?
So that's what I'm waiting for, and actually it's not going to happen for mechanics problems, or especially whatever you encounter in civil engineering or mechanics based branches. Okay, always your differential equation is whatever equation you are going to solve is going to end up in having a even order. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So this is how you can classify the boundary conditions. Now, anyway, I just wanted to give you this a small introduction related to physical phenomena and modeling, using this axial deformation of bar to explain this process. Now, once we got this differential equation, now you can forget about this. Once you get this equation, once you get this differential equation, boundary condition, you can forget about this, what physical phenomena actually it is representing. Now it becomes like a mathematical problem. Now it's a mathematical problem. Now we need to focus on how to solve this mathematical problem. How to solve this mathematical problem, what are the various techniques that we have. That is what we are going to focus on in the first few weeks of this course. Okay. So let's go through this quickly. Some write-up is here. The differential equation or equations which describe the physical problem considered are assumed to hold over a certain region. The first point is this one. This differential equation is going to hold over this region. Okay, so that is what this first point is. The differential equation or equations, you can have instead of one equation, you can have coupled equation, two equations. Differential equation or equations which describe the physical problem considered. In the previous case, it is axial deformation of bar, are assumed to hold over a certain region. And this region may be 1, 2, 3 dimensional. In the particular case which we have seen only one dimensional case. It is characteristic feature of the finite element method that instead of seeking approximations that hold directly over the entire region. The region is divided into smaller parts called finite elements, so-called finite elements, and the approximation is then carried out over each element. Just to understand this point, suppose you are given this problem, treating it as a mathematical problem, okay? I think all of you must have gone through your at least some courses on mathematics, and those who came through JEE, they must have studied as a part of that entrance exam, this kind of solving this kind of simple differential equation, okay? Simple differential equation, subject, if two boundary conditions are given, how do you solve this? You integrate it twice. You are going to get two integration constants. You have the two boundary conditions, substitute these two boundary conditions and find what are those integration constants. Okay, so once you determine those integration constants, you are having the entire solution, and that solution is valid over the entire region. And please note that whatever solution we are getting by that process, we are trying to seek a solution which is valid over the entire region. But instead of that, in finite element method, what we are going to do is, this region is there, 0 to L. 0 to L region is there. This region, we are going to make it into smaller pieces. We are going to cut it into small pieces. That is what is called discretization. The entire domain is going to be divided into smaller elements. That is what is called discretization. And we are going to, we will try to find what is solution in each of these elements. Okay? And there is an advantage for doing that. Suppose if you go back and recall curve fitting, if you have a scattered data, and if you want to fit a single curve, if you want to fit into the entire data, you may need to assume higher order polynomial. Okay? Instead of that, if you divide that entire region into smaller parts, in each of the region you can use a simple linear curve, simple linear straight line you can fit in each of the smaller parts, and only thing is you will be having many straight lines which you have to join, and which in a way is going to be approximately equal to the a single polynomial. Okay, so instead of seeking a single solution over the entire domain in finite element, we are going to divide this entire domain into smaller pieces called elements and try to seek the solution in each of these smaller parts. And what is the advantage of that? We can start, instead of going for higher order polynomial, we can assume a linear polynomial itself. Okay, anyway, if it's not clear to you, as we progress it will be clear to you. Okay, so let's go through this point again. It is characteristic feature of the finite element method that instead of seeking approximations that hold directly over the entire region, the region is divided into smaller parts, so-called finite elements, and the approximation is then carried out over each of these smaller parts, each of this element. Okay? For instance, even though a variable varies in a highly nonlinear manner over the entire region, it may be fair approximation to assume that that variable varies in a linear fashion over each element. Okay? Anyway, as we progress, it will be clear, or if some clarification is required at this stage, you can raise that. Any questions? So now the collection of all elements is what is called finite element mesh. Collection of all these elements are called finite element mesh. Anyway, once we solve some problems in one-dimensional, two-dimensional, you will understand better. And what is this advantage of this finite element method? The finite element method can be applied to obtain approximate solution for arbitrary differential equations. That is boundary value problems, where certain information is known a priori, for the unknowns at the boundary, initial value problems, which are typical for transient phenomena like wave propagation, transient heat conduction. But as a part of this course, we'll be focusing more on boundary value problems. Okay? Any questions? So let's go through this quickly, or yeah, let's go through this quickly. Anyway, we'll come back to this once again once we solve a problem. And the type of approximation which is to be applied over each element has been selected, the corresponding behavior of each element can then be determined. Or we'll do one thing, we will skip this, and then once we solve a problem, then I will come back to these points, and then you can appreciate them better. Okay, so let's skip these points, directly go to some essential things. Anyway, let me go through this. In its most basic form, the finite element method shares many common features with simple matrix structural analysis. So if you have some background, or if you have gone through a course on matrix structural analysis, that you can actually feel like similarities. Okay, in this analysis, a structure consisting of trusses and beams are treated in a systematic manner with certain displacements as unknowns. And the emergence of finite element method took place in early 1960s, and since then its use has spread to virtually all fields of engineering. And these are some of the people who contributed a lot to the finite element method. Okay, some of these the books written by some of these people have listed in the references. Okay, so these are the prominent names that you encounter whenever you go through this finite element literature. So some basic information or basic knowledge that you need to refresh. Matrix algebra is what you need to just revise. Okay, anyway, I don't need to explain all this, what is matrix and what it consists of. You can go through this, and also all this addition, subtraction of matrices or vectors and matrices. Okay, and all this multiplication by a number, scalar product, what is length of a vector, what is the multiplication rules applied to matrices and vectors. You just go back and revise all this. Also determinant, what is cofactor, minor, how do you find the determinant, expansion formula of Laplace. Okay, all this, anyway, all these are basic things. If you have gone through mathematics course, you must have gone through all this, so you just refresh all that. Okay, this determinant of transpose of a matrix, product of matrices, sum of matrices, and inverse of a matrix, and what are the associated properties. Okay, and linear equations. Finally, once we have seen so far, we have seen how to translate physical phenomena into a mathematical or a differential set of differential equations boundary conditions. Once we get the differential equation boundary conditions, once we use some kind of approximation and get system of equations, how do we solve this system of equations? And when the trivial solution exists, when non-trivial solution exists, all those kind of things which you must have studied as a part of your mathematics, you need to refresh all that. Okay? And also Gauss elimination method. And what is the quadratic form, and what is positive definite? And if you some of the MTech students have already gone through structural dynamics course, and if you want system to be stable, structural system to be stable, one of the check is the positive definite. Whatever set of equations that you get, that system of equations should be positive definite, or the matrix, stiffness matrix should be positive definite. Such kind of things you must have covered as a part of your structural dynamics, or if it is not covered, that's not a major thing. So for that we require this. What is the positive definite? What is the meaning of that? You just go through it, and when the time comes for when we are solving the problems, I'll once again go through this. Okay. If you want to check whether a matrix is positive definite or not, you need to select a non-zero vector, and such vector x transpose ax should be greater than 0, then A is positive definite, and rest of the things you can go through it. Okay. And the other way of determining is you can also see the eigenvalues, whether all the eigenvalues are greater than 0, or greater than or equal to 0, less than 0, less than or equal to 0. Okay. So you just do some search in Wikipedia or something. What is this positive definiteness? And also partitioning and differentiation integration. These also, please note that when you have a differentiation as well as integration, differentiation and integrations integration operations are interchangeable. Okay. If you have a differentiation operator, after that you have an integral operator, you can interchange them. You can first integrate and then differentiate, or differentiate and integrate. Both are going to result in the same thing. So you refresh all those kind of concepts. Anyway, now let's take a simple example. One more example to explain how to get the differential equation, how to get the governing differential equation for a particular case. Here, this one, free falling body, the body which is falling freely. It is dropped, it is falling freely, and what are the forces that are acting? And based on simple equations of statics, this equation is written. Okay. Here, free body diagram, a body which is falling freely. What are the forces that are acting? Drag force is acting in the opposite to the gravity, and the body is actually moving with velocity v, and weight of the body is mg, and based on your simple mechanics principles and then equilibrium conditions, you can write this equation. Okay, so you refresh all these kind of things. Mass into acceleration. This is nothing but Newton's law. Force is equal to mass into acceleration. Acceleration is nothing but derivative of velocity, with time derivative of velocity times mass of this body. Okay, and it is going to act in opposite direction to the force acting on the body. What are the forces acting on the body? Self weight acting in the downward direction, and the drag is acting in the upward direction. Drag is going to be a function of velocity. C times C is nothing but here. C is the proportionality constant. Okay. You need to have, please note that maybe you require to go back to your fluid mechanics and refresh. Okay. So to write a differential equation, you should have knowledge of that particular domain. But once we get the differential equation, it's a mathematical equation. Anybody can solve that. So that is where we are going to focus as a part of this course. The point I want to make is that one. And here, assume some tank is there, and inflow is there, outflow is there. Okay. And what is the rate at which? Time rate of change of mass in a tank. Let's assume a water tank. Water is getting filled and water is also going out. So how do I actually come up with the differential equation to explain that phenomenon? So that is what this is. This example is showing. Conservation of mass. Conservation. What is the mass inflow and what is the mass outflow? And that mass inflow minus mass outflow is going to be time rate of change in the mass. Time rate of change in the mass is nothing but density, mass density times the volume, time rate of mass change or change in mass. That is what mathematically it is written like this. And what is the mass that is flowing and what is the mass that is what is inflow mass and what is outflow mass. So this is the governing differential equation to explain like a physical phenomena in which a tank is being filled and also some of the liquid is being taken out. Okay. So as a part of this course or in the next few classes, we will be focusing on given a differential equation. Given a differential equation and the domain over which that differential equation is valid, and given the boundary conditions, how to solve that kind of problems. And before we go into the finite element method, we will be focusing in the first few classes on classical methods. Once you go through that exercise of doing solving example using classical methods, then you will understand or appreciate this particular third point. Third point you can appreciate only once you go through the classical methods. And once we go through the classical methods and note down all types of or broadly all types of methods, then we will start finite element method. Then you can understand what is the advantage of finite element method over the classical methods. Okay. So that is how we are going to proceed as a part of this course, and I have some few minutes left, so I'm going to give you an introduction to that one. Okay, introduction to 2D finite element analysis. And forget about this date and other things. Okay, please note that this whatever you are studying or whatever you are learning, they are all well established. They are all time invariant. So it doesn't matter even whatever the slides, the date is 2007. All those are applicable even now. Okay. So let's start. I'm going to share these slides. I'm going to put them on the Moodle. So now you got an idea what we are doing in the going to do in the first few classes. We are going to look at a differential equation valid over the domain and subjected to some conditions. How to solve that differential equation. Okay. So we are going to focus on approximate methods. So that is what is actually mentioned approximate methods. I told you finite element method, there are two approaches. One is variational approach, another is Galerkin approach. Okay. Even these classical methods are based on these two approaches. Whatever I told you, Galerkin approach, that is nothing but weighted residual, or it falls under the category of weighted residual methods. Weighted residual methods and variational methods. You please take a note of this. Weighted residual methods, variational methods. What are these weighted residual methods? That is explained, or that is briefly given here. But once we go through a problem and once we come back to this point, you will appreciate better. Okay. So please take a note of it. Approximate methods. Under that, weighted residual methods and variational methods. Approximate methods can be broadly classified into weighted residual methods and variational methods. In weighted residual method, the weighted residual methods work on BVP, is nothing but boundary value problem, directly, and try to minimize some measure of error in the solution or residual. You will understand. Don't worry about this. Okay, we are going to try. We are going to minimize some. We are going to define some residue or error, and we will try to minimize that error. And in variational methods, the boundary value problem is first expressed as an equivalent variation in an equivalent variational form. The approximation is constructed from the variational statement. And these variational methods, I think in a way you have already you are already familiar with these methods. Okay, I will tell you how. If you want a structural system to be in stable condition, what is the condition you are going to apply? Potential energy, the potential energy is going to be minimum. When the body is in structural system is in stable condition, potential energy is going to be minimum. So when you want to find a solution, you are going to minimize the potential energy. Castigliano's theorem. Okay, so in a way, that is nothing but your variational method. And I told you, most of these finite element textbooks are written by people, either they follow weighted residual based finite element method or variational based finite element method. Okay, or they, usually when they present this finite element method, either they present using this weighted residual approach or variational approach. Usually civil engineers are good in writing potential energy directly. Given a structural system, we know how to write potential energy. So once we know how to write potential energy, we can try to find the solution of the structural system by minimizing the potential energy. So most of the books written by these people, civil engineering or structural engineering people, they prefer variational approach, and other people prefer this weighted residual approach. But it doesn't matter. As yesterday I gave an example. Once you enter IIT Madras main gate, there are two paths which leads you to the hostel. It doesn't matter which path you take, finally you are going to reach your destination. Okay, and if you do it properly, the thing is, whatever approach you follow, if you do it properly, finally you are going to get the same solution. Okay, so that you keep in mind. So approximate methods can be broadly classified into weighted residual methods and variational methods. And here some point is written that even if you did not understand at this stage, don't worry too much. Once we cover, and then once we come back to this, you will understand better. And to do this entire exercise, to understand these weighted residual methods and variational methods, to do this entire exercise, I'm going to select a problem. I'm going to select a problem for which I know the exact solution. So that is, for that I have taken a differential equation, second order differential equation, and the domain over which I need to solve this differential equation. And second order differential equation requires two boundary conditions to solve. The two boundary conditions are noted, and based on the thumb rule that you noted, if you see these two boundary conditions, both are essential boundary conditions. You require two boundary conditions. It's not necessary one should be essential, one should be natural. It can be, both can be essential boundary conditions. Okay. Here in this particular problem, both are essential boundary conditions, second order differential equation. And this simple problem is taken, and I can easily find the exact solution for this problem. Integrate this twice. I'm going to get two integration constants, substitute these boundary conditions and determine those integration constants, and then I can get the exact solution for this problem. So you do that exercise. Okay. So here this is a differential equation. This is the domain over which we are solving. These are the two boundary conditions. Integrate it and see whether this is what you are getting or not. Okay. This is the exact solution for this problem. You may ask why if I know the exact solution, why I want to solve it using approximate methods. I want to solve using approximate methods and compare how the solution matches with the exact solution. I'm going to do this exercise with broadly all the weighted residual methods, all the variational methods, and then do this exercise and try to pick which is the best one. And then from there we are going to proceed to the finite element method. Okay. So please take a note of this problem, and then these boundary conditions. You please check as a part of your homework. You please check whether this is exact solution or not. In tomorrow's class, we are going to start with weighted residual method. Okay. In tomorrow's class, we are going to start with weighted residual methods. I'm going to stop here. Any questions? Any questions? Attendance is less today. I don't know why. I think people are thinking they can follow the lecture, these slides, and then they can get away with it. But I don't think it's going to help you. Just let me take attendance. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.